Hello, people. I'm Dave Rubin, sitting in for Anna Kasparian, who is gallivanting across France. This is The Point, and we have a great show for you. This week, we will be talking about boycotts in the modern day. Do they still work? Can they work? We'll find out. We're also going to talk about Jeb Bush. He may be running for president because you want another Bush in the White House, don't you? We will also be talking about tax day and tax choice. Should we be allowed to select where our taxes go? Seems like a pretty good idea to me. And finally, we'll be talking about spring break. These kids with the drinking, are they ruining spring break for everybody? But before we get to all that, let me introduce our fantastic panel. First off, we have Axel Caballero, who is not only the newly appointed executive director of the National Association of Latino Independent Producers, but he's also holds the distinction of being the only Point panelist with the word baller right in his name.
I guess that's a good thing.
I think that's good. I think that's good. I did that all in one breath somehow. Jimmy Dore. I know Jimmy Dore. He is a comedian and the legendary host of the Jimmy Dore Show podcast, as well as a TYT fixture on the Jimmy Dore Show, which recently, this is incredible,
yes,
just passed the 100 bazillion subscriber mark.
Yeah, it's got a lot of attention, so I don't, hey, I'm just glad people like what I do.
Congratulations, Jimmy. It's really, really great. And finally, we have Nikki DeLoach, who's an actress and longtime favorite of ours. She's currently starring in MTV's Awkward, which has its season 4 premiere next Tuesday night, and she's about to star in 45 minutes of TYT's Awkwardness by sitting next to Jimmy on our panel.
Yeah.
Are you ready for that?
I am so honored to be sitting next to Jimmy.
Jimmy, no touching. Okay. No touching, no touching.
Perhaps we can negotiate that.
Yeah, well, we'll see. All right, let's talk about boycotts because there's been a lot of boycott stuff in the news. And last week we saw the release of a major Hollywood film on the life of United Farm Workers founder Cesar Chavez, who led the famous Delano, not Delano, grape strike and subsequent boycott. We've got the trailer for you.
Farm workers in Delano, California have begun an unprecedented strike in the Central Valley.
We believe the United Farm Workers and their leader, Cesar Chavez, represent the hope and aspirations of the vast majority of farm workers.
Every American has a stake to bring about social change within the system.
So who the hell is this Cesar Chavez?
I heard he's Mexican.
Seems a safe bet.
I'm angry that I live in a world where a man who picks your food can't feed his family.
We don't need you. We want you back to Mexico. Get the hell out of our country.
What do you think you're looking at, huh?
The citizens of Delano, they respect the law.
So do we, especially the Bill of Rights.
Have you seen the headlines they're getting? That's costing us real money, Mr. Bogdanovich.
We don't have to negotiate. We have to dictate terms.
Last report estimates that we've cost them $17 million.
We can't hold on much longer. We're gonna break this damn strike.
We have no laws to protect us here.
What if something happened to us?
With the boycott, there are no laws to stop us.
What would happen to the kids?
This is about being a man.
What are you doing? I'm standing up because somebody has to.
Mr. Chavez!
This is the moment, Cesar. This is what we came here to do.
You can't oppress someone who's not afraid anymore.
Okay, so the timing of this is pretty perfect because we've had a lot about boycotts in the news lately. Right now, there are right-wingers boycotting the Mozilla Firefox browser. We, of course, had the gays boycotting Stoli vodka. So, Axel, first question to you. What is the legacy of Cesar Chavez and the great boycott today?
I think it set an amazing precedent. I mean, when you think about farm fields, when you think about everything that goes on for workers, you immediately connect that to the mobilization that happened, due in large part by Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta. They changed the way that we viewed it. They organized, they mobilized, they brought attention, and that's really the impact of it, of a boycott per se, when it works, is to bring attention and highlight a problem. I think they did so effectively.
Yeah, so in the broader sense, what do you make, Jimmy, of all these boycotts? Everyone is boycotting something right now.
Well, it's funny,
right?
I know my friend Gene Pompa, I don't know if you know, a very funny comedian, he still participates in the grape boycott because of the plight of the migrant farmer workers. In fact, he doesn't even eat raisins because of the plight of the older migrant farmer workers. And that's a joke about raisins and grapes.
I got it.
No, well, I think real boycotts like that's a real thing. You're boycotting oppression. You're boycotting for something, as opposed to the boycotts that are, hey, this guy said something that I disagreed with, so let's boycott them because I don't like what he said. Those kind of boycotts I find less successful. For instance, they got rid of Glenn Beck on Fox News. That was a big deal. They really wanted to get rid of Glenn Beck, so they did, and then they replaced him with 5 Glenn Becks. And so that's always a loser, right? Yeah. So, but as something like this, where you can have a concrete change in social policy, that's a big deal.
Yeah. Do we have an odd way we go about selecting what we boycott? So the Stoli one, I think, is particularly interesting because it was a private company that apparently the vodka was actually being made in Latvia, not Russia, but we were trying to protest Russia, so we were attacking a private company that obviously doesn't have a lot to do with decision-making in government. So how do we go about, or how do you go about selecting what you're going to boycott, or if anything?
Well, I think it goes back to how they did it with a grape boycott. I mean, that was something they didn't give up on. They kept going. It has to mean enough to you for you to put your livelihood on the line. It has to mean enough to you for you to not give up on it. Because what happens is somebody gets behind, an issue, and then 2 weeks later, 2 months later, it's gone away. Do you care enough to see this thing out to the end? I think that is a huge, it's a huge point when you're trying to decide whether you're going to boycott something.
Yeah, and I think we've gotten used to the idea of online boycotting, the click to boycott per se, and now it's pledged to boycott. So you pledge to not buy while you're still at Walmart picking, food off the shelves. You're pledging to boycott Walmart, for example. And I think that has diffused the value of what a real boycott is all about.
Yeah, so is a lot of it that people just think they're doing something good rather than actually doing something good,
it's
right?
Minimal sacrifice.
Yeah.
I mean, people look at it and go, well, what's the least amount of work that I can put into this to make myself feel better about myself at the end of the day?
Yeah.
My good deed, so to speak, yeah.
Because the boycotts also came about with a fast. In fact, there's a great documentary called Cesar's Last Fast by filmmaker Rick Perez. Just got screened at Sundance, and it fantastically puts together what was the boycott in itself, what was the fast, and what were the mobilizations around that. So it wasn't just to say don't buy this product, but there was a whole entity behind it and an organization behind it that really spearheaded the movement.
Yeah, I like what you hit on before about that. What we boycott now is just someone's thought. Right, and that's what happened with the Mozilla guy, as opposed to something much bigger than that. Is there a risk in the free speech and how we deal with what we can say and what a head of a company can say and a CEO of a company versus what the whole company stands for?
Yeah, I don't think it's a risk of losing our free speech because none of this oppression came from the government. This thing with Mozilla. Now, see, that's a little bit more than just an idea, right? It's because he actually took a concrete step and donated money to suppress someone else's right. And now they're saying, I don't have to buy your product because I'm... So I agree with that. I have a response as a consumer to not patronize businesses that I don't agree with, right? So that, and if you're a CEO of a company, you have to have that in mind, or if you want to be CEO of a company, and you want to donate to an organization that's trying to actively suppress people's rights, well, then I have the responsibility to do something against what you're saying. So he is no longer a private citizen when you're doing that. He was dumb to do that, and he was dumb to think he could be the head of a major corporation and actively in his private life petition the government to suppress other people's rights.
Right. So was he dumb to do it, though, if it's a belief that whether I agree with it or not, if he holds that belief? And also the one in the case of the...
Just say this before, let's put it this way. Let's say in his private life, he was a neo-Nazi. Would anybody be defending him? What is so there's no difference. If you're doing something that we consider, that a private consumer considers reprehensible, I think it's their duty to boycott.
I know, but I also feel that it's a slippery slope, and here's why. Because, it's right now we're looking at Mozilla, but what's happening too is there's teachers on Facebook pages that have a picture and they're holding a drink in their hand, or they're in, a bikini, and my mom's a superintendent of a school system, so she gets people calling in about pictures pictures on Facebook and stuff like that and asking for their heads because of it. It's like, at what point do we, like, for instance, say I work for a company where my boss is adamantly pro-life, and I believe that women have a right to choose, and I support Planned Parenthood, and I support organizations that fight for that. Should they be able to fire me because I'm actively out there working? Okay, so
but no one's firing this CEO. The CEO is getting...
He's stepping down.
Yes, he's stepping down because he no longer can lead that organization.
Twitter would claim he actually got fired by the board. Obviously, we have no reason to believe that, but that's what they're saying, that they forced him out, so it really was firing. He didn't voluntarily step down.
If you're being the CEO of a company, it's costing them money, which it was. Yeah. That's a business decision. It's got nothing to do with his private life. It's got to do with you have now become a lightning rod that's costing us money. That's why you have to act certain ways, and like the NBA can drop, if you're a sports or you're an athlete. Remember Frank Sinatra? They used to have those morality clauses. So this is all things, if your actions in your private life cost us money, we're going to get rid of you. And that's always been the case. This isn't something new.
Yeah.
If he was being drunk in public off the clock and it was in the paper, they could fire him for that. Anything that he does that costs them money, they could fire him for.
Right. Do you guys think there should be a statute of limitations on what someone did in the past versus what they're being held to account for now? Because although I have no reason to believe this, it is possible that since 2008, when he donated the $1,000,
he could have changed his mind.
It is possible. Right. Now, he hasn't come out and said that, so I suspect it's not the case. Right. But should there be a statute of limitations that 5 years have gone by, and who knows?
I think there's a responsibility on leaders, right? And he's a leader. There's certainly a responsibility for them in how they act. However, most of the times in the business sense of the model is something that you do during the tenure at the business itself.
Right.
I think going too far back opens a lot of doors. I mean, what you did in college could come back also to haunt.
That's kind of my point. That is kind of my point. Is it's like it's a slippery slope. How far back into someone's life do we go? Like he's not actively doing this now. So we know.
Right, he may privately hold the belief now, but as far as we know, he wasn't still giving money.
If he's not bringing it into his work environment, for me, I feel like that there's a line there, and you can dig into anybody's past and find something that you disagree with. I don't agree with his position.
Right.
Absolutely not. I think it's horrible, but I also don't like the idea of somebody going back in my past and digging up my bones and finding something negative against me.
And isn't that a little bit of what happened to Paula Deen, right? Because she said the N-word apparently, 30 years ago, and then it created this whole thing. So should she have been held to the standard that she was?
Again, she's a public person, and this is something that's going to cost somebody money or an advertiser or sponsor, and they don't want to carry it. It's all business. So this is and this isn't the government coming in firing her. The government doing this is just.
So this is true free market.
Ironically, this is the free market speaking, and the people who are always wanting the free market to decide are pissed off now that the free market is decided.
That's a great point.
That's a really good point. In fact, that is the business sense, right? If this is going to cost us money, is that bottom line? Then that they go for it.
Yeah.
At the end, when it happened might be irrelevant as far as what is happening right now with the company.
Yeah. Do you guys think there's also a risk sometimes that you strengthen the other side by the boycott? Like when Chick-fil-A, when the gays were boycotting, I always say the gays and people get angry, when the gay community and their allies were boycotting Chick-fil-A, it turned out that Chick-fil-A's sales were never better because the right wing and Christian groups had jumped on board and said, we've got to save Chick-fil-A. So in a weird way, do you sometimes strengthen the very people that you're trying to take down with these things?
I think that sometimes boycotts might not necessarily have an economic impact, on the company, but you can morally shame them, you can damage their brand, and brands like Chick-fil-A or brands like Nike, a brand that has something to lose, they're a lot more vulnerable, I think, but it's not necessarily going to hit them in the pocket. I mean, if you look at the BP oil spill, a lot of the time what happened with that in some instances where people were saying, I'm going to boycott all BP stations. Well, you're hurting the owner of the station. You can go to Exxon and they may still be getting product from BP, so they weren't losing money from consumers.
Right, so they were hurting the franchisers who actually didn't work for BP. They owned their own businesses.
Yes.
And you end up hurting the wrong people.
And they were still making money.
The unintended consequences of boycotts.
Yeah.
Well, it's a David versus Goliath element to it. The
Right.
boycotts, I mean, you really have to, when we're talking about Delano, it was contained, right? It was an area, it was a group of individuals, it was certain farm, it extended and it grew, and it certainly doesn't rest the magnitude of it. But when you're talking about multi-billion corporations, you really have to have millions and millions of people really affect the corporation in and of itself, you know, in order for it.
Can I just ask you a question about, what do you think has happened? I mean, it was so successful, and he organized and he proved that workers could make a difference. Why did it all go away? I mean, it seems like we have no unionization in America. It's going the wrong way, which is why we have the income disparity that we have. I mean, why don't people take more of his example and put it to practice?
I think there's a couple of reasons. One is that the history of Cesar Chavez and all the activism that he did and all the information that is out there, just barely. This is the first movie.
Yeah.
This is the first major film that has come out, and the first documentary in and of itself that has come out on the topic. People just don't know about it. And so when history is kind of suppressed to a certain extent, you know, we're talking about Texas taking Cesar Chavez off the books and stuff like that, then it doesn't have the legacy that you wanted. So it's important for people to understand that right now. And I think that that's what this film really does.
Yeah. All right, well, they tell us we're a bunch of socialists and communists around here, but I think this segment proved that we're actually for the free market. Comment and like down below, and we'll be right back. Is America ready for another Bush presidency? No, it's not. Okay, end of segment. Yeah. Jeb Bush, you know, his brother George W., he was president, and his dad was president, and now it looks like he may run for president as a Republican in 2016, but he might have to moderate some of his stances, and that includes immigration. We've got a little video for you.
And there should be penalties for breaking the law. But the way I look at this, and this is not, you know, I'm going to say this and it'll be on tape, and so be it. The way I look at this is someone who comes to our country because they couldn't come legally. They come to our country because their families, you know, a dad who loved their children was worried that their children didn't have food on the table. And they, you know, wanted to make sure their family was intact. And they crossed the border because they had no other means to work to be able to provide for their family. Yes, they broke the law, but it's not a felony. It's kind of the it's an act of love. It's an act of commitment to your family.
It's an act of love. This guy, these Bushes, when you think Bush, do you think love? Am I right? It's a lot of love with these Bushes. Jimmy?
You know, it might not be a felony to come in illegally, but it certainly is a moral sin in the Republican Party to point that out. And he certainly is going to get
Did you see how nervous he was, even saying anything pro-immigration?
He's like, okay, I'm going to say something consistent with my Christian faith, so watch out, here it comes. I'm going to say something that might sound like Jesus was talking, so this is going to really fuck me up in the Republican primary.
Yeah, now George W. Bush, he used to describe himself as a compassionate conservative. His brother, now this is an act of love conservative. Well, what could be next?
Well, compassionate conservative is when they give you a little headrest when they're torturing you, right? Isn't that what that is? It's enhanced.
It's here's a little waterboarding is.
Here's a little pillow. But as far as another Bush in the White House, I think Hillary's got a good shot. And that's a joke about pubic hair.
Got it.
But what he's saying there is that maybe we shouldn't put people in prison who are just trying to help their family. And but that starts a slippery slope, because the next thing you know, he's going to start using government to help people. Whew, that's a sin.
Yeah,
okay, so he obviously is moderating himself because he's going to run, and the collection of losers that they have for 2016 is just maybe 10% better than the collection that they had in 2012. So let's just focus on the Bush family for a second. Is there any reason we should possibly be thinking that this is even a rational thought to have another one of these people be president?
Well, I'm like, man. I think, well, here's the thing. I think that you made a good point, which is, who else do they have, okay, at the end of the day? I'm not saying that he should run for president in 2016, but when you look at the Rick Santorums and the Cruzes and the Scott Walkers and everyone else they're talking about, Chris Christie's numbers are down. I mean, who else do they have? I think that the Republicans would run a Bush. I think that they would, only because who else? They might say like, well, for, you know, shits and giggles, hey, who else is there to run against a Clinton than a Bush? You know, I'm not saying it's the smartest thing, but I could see them thinking that way.
I totally agree with you. And is that part of it? Is that the media and sort of every one of us that's a talking head or whatever it is that we are, that the idea of a Bush-Clinton go around would be so juicy and exciting. All the recycling, it's good for the environment. Well, the Republicans don't care about that, but yeah, exactly.
I mean, he should just go directly to painting. I mean, they're doing this already. I think that should be the direct approach. This is a terrible idea. Weren't we talking that he was this less smart one of the Bushes?
That's what they used to say.
Imagine that. I mean, if that's the case, and that's who's, you know.
Well, he wears glasses, so now they think he's a little brighter. What do you think about George W. Bush? Because we haven't heard much about him, and I think people are starting to like him a little bit more, and maybe that's playing into this, that he hasn't been attacking Obama. He's a painter now.
I think it's the painting.
It's the painting? Has it really softened him? We always think different things when they leave office.
Of all the war criminal painters, he's my favorite. I gotta tell you,
Hitler was
right up there with Hitler. It'd be nice if he painted, instead of like himself in the bathtub, if he painted, I don't know, maybe a scene from Fallujah, where some kids are being burned with phosphorus. That would be a nice painting. I'd like to see him paint that.
He's more into Tony Blair and Putin and that kind of thing. But really, though, are we running a risk of becoming exactly what we left in England, a monarchy, where, because yes, we know Hillary's going to run, we know Bush is going to run, and we're just going to have families. And then, as I keep saying, we're going to have Malia 2026, and Chelsea's going to run. And when does it end if we don't stop it now?
People love dynasties in this country. You know, the Bushes, the Kennedys, the Clintons, the Kardashians. Like, we can't get away from them, you know? it's horrible.
Yeah. Jimmy.
Well, the people, you know, the fact that people, you know, get to be in a position to have influence in our culture just because of the family they're born into. I was watching a segment on this on Ronan Farron's show the other day. And no, I mean, you know, so they say, what is it? A Bush has had the key to the front door of the White House for 20 of the last 34 years. I think we've had enough Bushes, right? So let's move on. But that's what, you know, it's all, again, there's more money in politics with the McCutcheon decision, which just means we're going to get more of this, right? So it's just, whether it's George Bush or Ted Cruz or somebody else, it's still the same people pulling the strings, right? And the fact that right now we were just talking about Walmart and how horrible they are to their employees and for our economy, yet the liberal in the next election is going to be Hillary Clinton. She's on the board, or was on the board of Walmart. So it's like our system is broken. wolfpashdak.com.
I don't even have to add anything to that. That was a pretty perfect ending. Okay, let's move on and talk about taxes. So I think this is actually a pretty great story and a great idea. So April 15th is almost upon us. I just did my taxes. I didn't owe that much this year. I feel pretty good.
Shitty year last
How are you
year,
guys doing personally on tax? It was really shitty. Yeah. You owed?
I think so.
You owe? Jimmy, did you owe?
Yeah, I cheat a lot.
Nikki, did you owe?
This is an issue that I am so passionate about. Here is why.
Yeah. Wait, let me tell everybody about what's going on first,
okay,
and then you
tell
can
everybody first.
take it away with passion. So a lot of people are talking about tax choice, which would basically be a system where you would get to choose what your tax money goes to. This actually seems pretty great.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it seems pretty great because perhaps if you aren't a, let's say, a war profiteer, maybe you wouldn't want your money going so we can drop cruise missiles on people or something of that nature. And now give me some passion. Oh,
I am so passionate about this because a lot of my money goes to taxes. Half of my check goes to taxes every single week. And I look at it and I go, well, what am I getting in return? I don't mind that half of my check goes to taxes. I mind it's taxation without representation that just really gets my goose going, because I don't want to be funding a war in Afghanistan. I want to be sending kids to school. It costs 88% less for a child to get a high school diploma than it does to keep somebody in Afghanistan for 1 year. Yeah. It's insane what we're spending. If I could choose and sit down and go, I want it to go to this and this and this, or at least a certain percentage 25% or some percentage of my money where I could decide where that goes, I'm going to feel a lot better about giving my money away every single week.
Excellent.
Now, a percentage may be better. I think that we're opening a can of worms, in my opinion. Why? Because, you know, you certainly do it, and I'll certainly do it, but I'm not sure that millions of Americans are going to choose the right boxes, particularly
You think this could actually lead to more war? More people are going to be like, I want that new tank.
I just read something on the news. I saw Fox News. I'm going to send more troops to Iran or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, like, we go with the flow in this country, and the media has a very strong, you know, hold on our public view and opinion, and that could sway. It could be almost a method of like swaying where the money is allocated.
Yeah. Would this be one of these things that you would do it just as you described, but that really it would just be so that you feel good about yourself? But at the end of the day, the government's going to do what the government's going to do.
Yeah, I have a feeling the government's going to do exactly what they want to do, right? Yeah. So, no matter, I mean, 90% of America wanted some form of sensible gun legislation, and of course, it couldn't even get out of the Senate. So what does that tell you? That tells you that exactly what she says. We kind of have taxation without representation in a sense. We do get to vote, but the people who we vote for aren't responsive to the voters. They're only responsive to their donors. So whatever the donor wants, who's ever giving big money, which now there's no limits anymore. So our voice is going to be even smaller and smaller, and we have to rely on rich people to influence our representatives.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I was just going to say, and the other thing is, like, while I would love to be a part of this and I would love for this to exist, you look at why aren't people up in arms now whenever a representative that they vote in, that they believe stands for something, gets into office and goes the other way, and nobody says anything, nobody, you know, is picketing or boycotting this representative to get them out of office. So I guess you're right. Like, what would make us think that somebody's going to sit down and fill out and do the research and the education that they need to do in order to make the right choices?
Yeah. So why is it? It seems to be a pretty consistent thought amongst most people that the government's pretty screwed up and we waste money all over the place. But why is it only that the Tea Party is for cutting taxes? You know what I mean? It seems to me that progressives also, if you see so much waste in government and money going to wars you don't want to be in and things like that, we should also be trying to rein in the pocketbook, because maybe that's the only way we can control that.
Well, I thought that's why we voted. I thought that was the whole point of this, that we vote people to manage this thing for us, and then we vote them out when, you know, we don't agree with them. I think that the problem is that our democracy right now and our voting components, I mean, the options that we have, Bush, Clinton, the options that we have are not representative of a lot of the same values that we're talking about.
Yeah, so getting to the Supreme Court case that you alluded to, so we're just putting more money in, and then it's just going to cause none of this to change, right?
It seems like it almost has to get worse before it gets better. I mean, even in retrospect, you know, our choices between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama was a guy who's going to give you a shit sandwich and a guy who's going to give you a shit sandwich plus health care. Right, so that's really what we're getting. You know, Barack Obama's not supporting the unions. He's not really doing anything to affect income inequality. He doesn't have a jobs program. He's not trying to stop outsourcing. He's not re-regulating Wall Street. He's not making sure investment happens. He's still giving a quantitative easing, $65 billion a month to the banks for free when he's not, and he's making teachers jump around for $4 billion a year, and that's his race to the top. So his priorities are backwards and upside down, and that's what we get because of our broken system and the Fourth Estate. That's why we're here, right? The internet. We're not bought by anybody, and so we can actually tell the truth. We're not bought by Bill Gates like NPR is, right? And so we don't even get the truth about education anymore, and everything's going to be privatized. So the media has been bought by the people, the criminals who also bought Congress, and that's where we're at. We have no watchdog over the people who are now criminally running our government.
Yeah, and we could do stories on that pretty much every day for the rest of our lives. So final thought on this. What do you guys think about the general tax code as a sort of, just in the bigger sense of it? So you said you pay 50% of your weekly check to taxes, but you also said you're okay with it.
I am.
So is there something system that would be more fair, even if it wasn't this, that may be a little pie in the sky, something maybe like a flat tax or something like that?
Yeah, actually, a flat tax. I'm not opposed to having that discussion of a flat tax. I feel very frustrated, you know, and I don't know what to do because this is above my pay grade and my education and my knowledge in terms of, like, really, I think it's quite a lot more involved than I could possibly imagine.
I'd vote for you.
Would you?
Yes. Why wouldn't you? You can run and make a difference. Right now, didn't Henry Waxman just retired? I think he should run
In fact, that's why I'm here, people. I am announcing
your candidacy.
Yeah, I feel like something has to be done, and for me, it really comes down to like what you were saying, such a good point about the money is going into the wrong places, and there's nobody being held accountable for it, and I am done with people not being held accountable.
Again, you guys have given me a great ending, so we will be right back. Drinking, drugs, sex. Am I talking about a Republican fundraiser? No, I'm talking about spring break. There's been this firestorm over what happened at UC Santa Barbara. There were major riots during some spring break activities. We've got some video.
It's held in Isla Vista near the campus of UC Santa Barbara. Police say 2 people in the crowd were treated for stab wounds and at least 6 law enforcement personnel were injured. The gathering drew huge crowds that got out of control. Hundreds of police officers were brought in to contain the violence. 2 officers were injured by thrown objects, a bottle and a brick. Now, some pictures are showing up on Twitter. There were reports of widespread vandalism, including street signs torn down. Small fires were set, and at least 1 vehicle was smashed by revelers.
A whole vehicle.
What happened to just smoking pot in college? You know what I mean? These are not stoned kids, because I spent 4 years stoned on a couch watching The Simpsons. I was not rioting. Were you guys rioting, or is rioting new?
We rioted.
You rioted for reasons. You had reasons.
Yeah, because they were a lot of repressive drug drinking laws were put in over the summer. And so when we came back, they put a ban that you couldn't transport a keg after 10 o'clock. So the cops would wait outside liquor stores and for people to buy a keg at like 10 to 10, and then they would follow you. And when it got past 10, they'd pull you over and put you in jail. So we decided to have a riot. Well, actually, we were just going to have a gathering, a protest. It turned into a riot. But you know, they talk about that being, oh, the crowd got out of control. 2 people got hurt. There's a higher mortality rate at a fucking Dodgers game. Are you shitting me?
Well, I was going to say, that looks basically like what happens when someone wins the World Series or wins the NBA championship or something. I mean, we get a couple cards.
First of all, I don't know if you know, UC Santa Barbara, big party school.
Yeah,
okay?
They say it's the number 2 party school in the nation.
Yeah, so it's pretty, right, so it's great. I mean, it's college, let them have fun, and we've done it, we've always done it, you know, and, you know, there's a lot of really dangerous drinking happening in college, and nothing you're going to do could stop it.
Yeah, so all right, so are we just going to get a certain amount of this stuff? Is it just going to be?
I think it's like inertia, and I probably would guess that, you know, the rioters, so it's probably not even students. They're surrounding areas, they're coming in, you know, they're having the party. I mean, you know, you can't just like blanket everything. I mean, it's college. It's part of the experience, I guess, you know, in Santa Barbara for sure.
Nikki, you work for MTV Spring Break and those crazy houses and the pools, and who's emceeing those things these days?
Well, I was going to say, yeah, but those have like Kid Rock is involved, and, you know, Kesha or some musician. They're on the beach, they're dancing, you know. They're not burning things, no. But I agree with them. I mean, it's spring break, and it's like, you know, before you know it, you're going to have a real job and married and kids, and so not do it.
Before you know it.
Do it.
So not defending any of these kids, obviously, for burning public property and things like that, but is there something actually healthy about this? Something, because they're not going to be able to do this really in real life, and it's just stupid, drunk nonsense.
They flipped over a whole car, Dave. A whole car.
That's impressive.
I think this is a
That's superhuman.
I mean, that's impressive.
It was a smart car, but the point is, I mean, I think they're making more. You know, they just happen to have videotape of it. I just think they're making more out of it than it is. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that happens on colleges all the time, and it's 2 people got hurt. Are you shitting me? Really. There's more physical violence at a water park. It's unbelievable. That was nothing. That's college kids doing what college kids did.
Yeah.
Axel, would you be for an alternative spring break where the kids do good things, like go build houses and help poor people?
I mean, that sounds fantastic. I hope you get a good amount of people there, you know, during spring break.
2 people show up.
Yeah, it's not going to be. That's not going to be fun. You don't want an alternative spring break. You want them to do
when I was
their
in college, I went and donated my time to Habitat for Humanity during spring break, which is bullshit. But I'd like to say that.
Yeah, why is Habitat for Humanity bullshit?
No, I didn't do that.
Oh.
Habitat for Humanity is a great charity.
He just liked to say that he did.
Yeah.
Got it.
I didn't really do it.
What do you think about sort of like a socially responsible spring break? Is that doable?
I think it's doable. I do. I mean, I think there is a way to say, okay, well, if you're going to do this, like especially in high school, if it's like going to be a high school sponsored event, you know, I think there's a way to say, well, you're going to give up a certain amount of your time during the day before the drinking begins. You know, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I mean, we have heightened the whole spring break. It has to be in this 2 weeks or whatever it is, and everything has to be done in those weeks. And I think that that might be a little more marketing component of it.
Yeah, 100% honest. I just found this out when I did Pop Trigger 2 weeks ago. But sophomore year in college, I went, and I'm not even sure where I went, whether it was Bermuda or. Give me another island, just some other island.
St. Bart's.
St. Bart's or something, and I was so messed up for a week, I didn't know what island I was on. I found out on Pop Trigger through some contextual clues, it turns out I was in Bermuda. Because there's legalized gambling there, is that correct? Can anyone confirm that?
I can't confirm that, but you sound like a shit ton of fun.
Yeah, and here I am, so there you go. All right, well, I want to thank our 3 panelists for a great show, and you know what? I'm going to let you guys pimp yourselves out. Nikki, tell the camera a little bit about yourself.
All right, camera. Hi, Nikki DeLoach. You can follow me on Twitter at Nikki DeLoach or on Instagram at Nick DeLoach.
Jimmy Dore.
Hi, Jimmy Dore, and my podcast is The Jimmy Dore Show, and you can also find it here on the Young Turks Comedy Network.
Axel.
All right, you can follow NALIP, the National Association of Latino Independent Producers, at facebook.com/NALIP.
And I'm Dave Rubin. You can watch the Rubin Report at youtube.com/Rubin Report. And Anna will be back next week, unless she meets a Frenchman, I guess. If she met a Frenchman and the wine and the cheese, and well, who knows? Maybe I'll be back next week. We'll see. Thanks for watching, guys.